And thanks so much to Michael Mann, professor of Earth and Environmental Science at University of Pennsylvania, just awarded $1 million in a defamation lawsuit. Happy birthday to Brendan Allen. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez.
The viewpoints expressed in this program are the opinions of the people expressing them and are not necessarily those of Fresh Air Incorporated, its staff, or its board of directors.
Hi, this is Al McFarlane, host of the Conversation with Al McFarlane. You're listening to 90.3 FM, KFAI, Minneapolis. I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to the Conversation with Al McFarlane. I'm glad to be here with you and glad to have you along as well. Beautiful, amazingly beautiful and warm Tuesday here on the 13th of February. I can't believe it. I can't remember it ever being this warm, this late, deep into winter. It doesn't feel like winter to me. And I, for one, while I love winter and I love the revenue and businesses that benefit from winter, I also love not having the hassle of traffic and ice and cold and snow. So, this is a beautiful thing to me. Well, thank you for checking us out here at The Conversation. As you know, we're streaming live, not only broadcasting live on KFAI, we're streaming live to KFAI.org. We're streaming live to Black Press USA, to Insight News YouTube channel, streaming live to Facebook, to Twitter, and to LinkedIn. Our mission, our goal is simply to connect with you in as many ways as we can. And we invite you to be a part of the conversation. You do that by going to YouTube Insight News MN and click, like, share, join. But you can also communicate with us, and if you want to get involved in this program, send us a note on the chat, and we'll try to bring you in or at least acknowledge you. Thank you wherever you are for supporting this station, number one, KFAI, powerful station, and for this program, The Conversation with Al McFarlane. Well, what I always have promised is that I deliver what I called robust conversations, and I say today will be no exception. I'm pleased to have two of the young leaders at Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Twin Cities. They call it BBBS. And we're talking about mentorship, why it's important to the community, what it means to people individually, and who are the people that are looking to be mentored, and how can you, whether you're young or middle-aged or older, fit in and support the mission. My guests are two of the team leaders. Princess Awa-Ada Kisob is Vice President of Programs at BBBS. She oversees programming, including community and school-based mentoring programs, the free arts program, and special initiatives. Princess brings strong leadership skills, experience in developing after-school youth programming, and in advocating for women and children. Prior to joining Big Brothers Big Sisters in early 2023, she was the program director at Missions Inc. programs, where she oversaw their emergency shelter. She also spent more than 6 years in the Hills Youth and Family Services, formerly called Woodland Hills, in Duluth, and most recently as the Director of Equity and After-School Programs. In 2016, she was honored as the Duluth News Tribune's 20 Under 40 Award winner, an annual competition that highlights movers and shakers from the greater Duluth community. She was also chosen as an emerging leader with the YWCA's Women of Distinction program in 2017, and she became a certified mental health practitioner in 2018. She serves on the board of the First Witness Child Advocacy Center and Violence Free Minnesota State Coalition. She has a BA from the University of Minnesota Duluth in International Studies with minors in journalism and Hispanic studies. And joining Princess, her colleague and teammate, I would say, is young brother Mario Bradshaw. And Mario Bradshaw is the Senior Community Engagement Coordinator at Big Brothers and Big Sisters. His job is to develop and nurture relationships, genuine relationships within the communities that Big Brothers and Big Sisters are part of. Anything that could benefit or speak to the needs of the matches and programs, he tries to facilitate that. He also helps with recruiting for the variety of programs. He's always in community looking to bring positive role models to be mentors, or bigs as they call them, for the Twin Cities youth. Well, guys, welcome to the conversation. How are you both?
Hello, we're doing great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you both for being here. Thank you so much for the work you do. Let's do this, Princess. Why don't you give us a Big Brother Big Sister 101? Everybody kind of knows it, but people don't have a top of mind. So this is a top of mind opportunity. Give people the crisp story about the value proposition of Big Brothers Big Sisters.
Well, here at Big Brothers Big Sisters, our mission is to ignite the power and the promise of youth. And the way that we do that is by bringing young people and connecting them with positive adult role models. We truly believe that having young people connecting and expanding their connection with adults in their lives only allows them to reach their highest potential academically when they think about their career and as they kind of think about the prospects of their future. We believe that, adult role models outside of their family only expand their opportunities and expand their viewpoints of how the world operates and gives them tools to be their best selves.
And Mario, how have you come to the work? I told a little about Princess's movement to this position, but what's been your path to get to your work as Senior Community Engagement Coordinator?
Appreciate the question. My path was a kind of not the most conventional, I would say. I knew from a young age I wanted to work with youth or be in the community. I know how the community impacted me growing up. I was raised by a single mother. I had an older sister who was around, but we were 7 years apart. So while we were close, we were just doing different things all the time. So I was by myself a lot. I know the people around me really shaped me, whether that's friends or like my friends' parents, teachers. So I knew from a young age, like these people really helped me become who I was. And I wanted to pay that forward in some realm. Didn't really know exactly what. Went to school for psychology, went to school at the University of North Dakota. Interesting experience there, but one I wouldn't trade for the world. Met a lot of great people who I hold dearly to my heart to this day. A lot of relationships, a lot of experiences. And then after college, I started working in group homes for youth with traumatic brain injuries. And that kind of led me into the realm of special education, where I was for 6 years previous to coming to Big Brothers Big Sisters. So working with youth, different, whether it's emotional behavior disorders, whether it was anything on the spectrum of autism. So I got experience in a lot of realms, kind of tied back to my education as well, but primarily just working with youth and being a role model for them, being an impact on their lives and trying to be a small piece of being a positive role model for them. I knew that I wanted to continue that in everything I did. So that led me to Big Brothers Big Sisters, knowing that they're a reputable organization, agency that carries a lot of weight in the Twin Cities. I felt like I can get in, I can make an impact, I can be genuinely myself, representing the communities, listen to youth, listen to parents and guardians, and really tap into what the community needs from us and how we can help benefit and ignite that promise or that power and promise of youth.
That's awesome. I'm Al McFarlane. This is the Conversation with Al McFarlane. My guest today, Princess Awa-Ada Kisob. She's Vice President of Programs at Big Brothers Big Sisters here in Twin Cities. and her colleague, Mario Bradshaw, who is Senior Community Engagement Coordinator at the organization. And so, Princess, let me ask you to sort of stretch out on why mentorship is so important in our community. And how does our community respond to the call? Have we been forthcoming, or are we responding in different ways? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, I think, mentorship has a collective impact, not just on the young people, but on their family and on the mentor themselves. I think for a long time, we've been telling the story about how mentorship just impacts the youth, which I think is the highlight of the story, of course. But even as the adults who surround that young person are also impacted by that relationship as well. The other thing that we know is that mentoring relationships really do ignite and allow young people to feel like they have a cheerleader, like they have someone in their corner. It's creating another safe space and a safe individual for them to connect with and to feel like they're being heard. And I think, in a world where there's a lot of people telling young people what's good and bad for them in their lives, a mentor is someone who is going to meet them where they are and be non-judgmental, as well as like sharing their personality and their personal desires. I always used to talk to young people about, it's not about what you know necessarily, which is still very important, but a lot of us can attribute our success to who we know and to the decisions that we've made. And so I really think that what mentorship really does is it really creates connections in a new way that's really intentional. Our team does a lot of incredible work to make sure that when we are matching young people with positive adult role models in the community, that it's beyond skin deep. A lot of folks are saying, like, I want a mentor that looks like me, and I think that that's valuable. But I think the work that we really do on our end, and you can probably hear this from parents and caregivers who will say, wow, you all made a match. I couldn't have even imagined that. Like, I couldn't believe you could find someone this perfect for my child or for the young person in my home, because we are really doing our best to really identify, what is this young person's aspirations? What are the challenges that their experiences? What are their unique experiences in life that they've had? And is there an adult who maybe shares some of that experience, or who's willing to learn and walk alongside this child in their journey? We really do believe that the young people are experts in what they want to be, but they do need some guidance and support from the adults who've been on this earth a little bit longer.
I'm Al McFarlane. This is the Conversation with Al McFarlane. And if you're listening and have a question or a comment, go to our YouTube presentation and find the comment section and leave a note, and we'll bring your note up, your question, your comment up. Particularly interested if you have been mentored, or if you have been or are a mentor. Love to have you drop a note. And if we can, we'd love to get you on the program as well, just to bring your personal voice. We can, if you click in, we'll send you a link and bring you live into the conversation. And so, Princess, when we think about mentorship, usually is the age group set? Is it from 5-year-old to 12 years up to, say, kindergarten to 12th grade? What's the range? How does it work?
Yeah, so we start enrolling youth at between ages 8 to 13, and then we will support them all the way through high school, and we do even have some programs that will support them post-high school as well.
Is it likely that a kid, say 3rd grade, 4th grade, gets a mentor, and that mentor stays with her or with him through high school, or is it switch off? How does it work?
Well, that kind of ebbs and flows, and we really do ask for at least a minimum of 1 year commitment to being a mentor, but we are seeing relationships that are lasting a lot longer, and we're trying to do our very best to figure out what is the trick, what's the secret sauce that really allows and strengthens relationships and allows them to last a really long time, because we know that is the ideal outcome. But at the same time, what we also know is that we want to make sure that there's sort of an arc to the story, and that we kind of have a beginning. We have our young people who are curious about some things, and their big or their mentor can support them with engaging in that, and when they've accomplished some goals together, when they've really built some connection, like we think that's success as well. So I think there's various ways to identify success, and it's not necessarily the length of time. I always like to compare it to, like, I have teachers in my life that I might have had for only 1 year. I will never forget the impact that they had on their life. It was beyond profound. So it's not necessarily the length of time, but it's the quality of the relationship that it rises above all. So really thinking about, like, how is this mentor expanding this youth's possibilities and allowing them to explore? How are they providing support in tough times and in good times and in bad times? And how are they challenging this youth's growth and really challenging them to be their very best self all of the time? And how do they show care? How do they show that they love them or that they care about them? And I think that's extremely critical. And a lot of those tenets come directly from research from the Search Institute.
So how does Blue Cross, not Blue Cross, Big Brothers Big Sisters support itself? How do you fund this apparatus? How large is the company? How many people are involved in the day-to-day operation, number one? I mean, I think everybody kind of generally knows about Big Brothers and Big Sisters, but people probably don't specifically know how it works and what's the glue that holds it together outside of goodwill and good intention of volunteers and a dedicated staff that tries to match, and is always seeking to identify those with needs. But tell me about the organization itself. What's the size, the scope, and the history of it to the degree that you can tell me? Because I want to get that kind of framework out there to talk about how people can plug in.
Absolutely.
Either to be a volunteer or to donate money or to support legislation. I mean, we'll talk about the ways people can help the whole work of mentoring go forward.
I'll let Mario get us started on this one.
Go ahead, Mario.
So Big Brothers Big Sisters Twin Cities, we've been in the Twin Cities for over 100 years now. We are a nonprofit, so we do rely on the community. We rely on donors. We rely on partners, any sort of, or other organizations, any sort of businesses to bring in money to help us fund our programs. All the money that is donated to us stays in the Twin Cities. So anything that's brought into Big Brothers Big Sisters Twin Cities stays in the Twin Cities, goes directly to our programs, goes directly to our matches. It enables us to do a lot of cool things out and about in the community, enables us to have a lot of cool events for our matches in-house, enables us to provide certain like meals or resources for our matches. It really gives back to our programs and what we're trying to do with listening to community and listening to our youth. So as far as like our size, the Twin Cities Agency, what are we at, Princess? Are we at like 55 staff?
Yeah, we're about a small army of 55.
So we're not huge, but
that's staff members.
Staff members, yes.
Yeah. So for the Twin Cities Agency specifically, the HR and leadership and everybody's done such an amazing job bringing in good people who are dedicated to the work, dedicated to the mission, dedicated to community. So although we're not a super large bunch, being about 55, I feel like the voice is very, very large in scope, and that we do a good job making sure that we're out hitting the ground, trying to reach our goals of any sort of funding we need for programs or any sort of funding we need for development or to bring on additional staff to sustain the programs we want to provide for youth and families and et cetera. Princess, was there anything that I missed in that part?
No, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head with that. But, even though we are a small team, we're considered a large agency across the Federation. So there's about 240 other Big Brothers, Big Sisters across the country. And we're considered one of the larger agencies, serving about 2,600 littles in our program. And we're hitting about five different counties in the metro area, between Hennepin, Ramsey, Anoka, and parts of Dakota and Washington. And so we're really spread out, and we're making big impacts in all of these communities in different ways. And so sometimes that is our traditional, what we're well known for, one-to-one community-based matching. But we also do have site-based programs programs where we're going into schools or we're working with corporate partners and bringing our young folks into that space. And then we also have our free arts program, which is also working with other nonprofits and providing mentoring in those environments. So although we're a small team, we hit the ground, we get into the community, and we're trying to do more of that and build better relationships in a more authentic, meaningful, and ideally mutually beneficial way.
2,000 littles, right? That's the right word, 2,000.
Yeah,
At
2,000.
a given time. Does it ebb and flow, or is that generally the number that your organization can has the capacity to handle?
It certainly ebbs and flows. And I can tell you that, as most organizations, companies, whether you're a nonprofit or not, we were impacted by COVID substantially. And knowing that site-based and school-based programs was a really large component. A lot of places we completely shut down. So we're building back up right now. And I think we have the capacity to serve more youth, but even before we're able to serve more youth, we're trying to get more volunteers, and that's really that's the component that's really missing is in order for us to support young people and ignite their power and their passion, we need to get adults on board with recognizing that they have things to give. They are perfectly fine just the way that they are, and that we're here to support them and coach them in any way that we can, if possible, to give them the confidence to take a leap of faith and join us in this mission.
So if you have 2,000 littles, does it mean then you've got 2,000 bigs at the present time working one-on-one with each of them?
To some degree. In some of our programs, it is group-based mentoring, but a majority of those are one-to-one matches.
Yeah.
Okay. And so how does a person qualify? How does a resident or citizen or community person discover, their way to your door to volunteer? These are all volunteers, right?
Yes, it's all volunteer based. There's no exchanging of monies or anything.
How does a person make himself or herself available and eligible? Who's an eligible mentor?
So,
and eligible is a big word for me, because I think that you have the trust of families, the public trust, and dealing with young people. And I know that you all take that very, very, very seriously. So talk about, how a person gets to where he or she is deemed eligible and worthy of supporting a young person as a mentor.
So I'll start by saying, we have mentorship programs, and we're a mentorship-based organization. So we throw around the word mentor a lot. What we mean by mentor is just being a positive role model on a young person, positive influence, somebody that can be there and help them with guidance, somebody who's going to be reliable, somebody's going to be consistent, somebody's going to show up and see them for who they are. With that requirement, all we ask is that you come as yourself, as you're open and willing to learn and grow and have new experiences. We abide by our Jedi rules and our values. So justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. So as long as you abide by those guidelines as well, that's part of the entry to get into the Big Brothers Big Sisters. But you don't need any sort of mentor experience at all. All we require is that you are adult, so 18 years or older for our programs, because you are going to be the adult role model or the person that parent guardian is not going to be around. So you'll be the adult in the relationship. Although you'll be interacting with parent guardian throughout the process and developing your own relationship with them, obviously, when dealing with you. And then child safety is at the top of our priorities. We want to make sure that our kids are safe, that our youth are safe in our programs. So we do have a vetting process. We do have a process that we make sure that we get our reference, and then working with youth, you're going to have a background check just to make sure everything's lined up and everything's good. Again, you are often cases working one-on-one with these youth in the Twin Cities. So we want to make sure that parent guardians feel safe, that they're knowing their babies are out there and they're okay, and they're under the Big Brothers Big Sisters umbrella, and everything's taken care of. But besides that, we're trying to decrease these barriers to be part of our programs, trying to bring in more volunteers. We have over 500 kids waiting to be matched at this moment. So we're really trying to push the initiative to come as you are. You don't need experience. Mentor can be a daunting word, but if you can be a positive role model on a young person, then you are welcome in our doors. So we're just trying to push that narrative forward so we can get more volunteers for these great youth who are waiting to be part of our programs.
So you're looking for 500 people right now.
Yes.
Look, we would take more.
And you the perfect time, because we will take more than that. And you caught us in the right time, because we're in the midst of our big recruit. And so we're trying to really activate the community to see that there's a need right now to really, consider and be invited into our space to consider what it means to be a mentor. And I think, Mario did a good job speaking to, like, there's kind of two aspects. There's like the social component, but then there's all the logistical pieces, and so like it takes time and there's a process, and you have an application, we have reference checks, we do interviews, we're checking where you worked, we're connecting with people in your life to make sure that you are who you say you are. We're providing you with lots of training up front. And so you have to have the time to commit to a lot of that to be ready to like step into this role. But then on the social side, as Mario referred to, it's like our Jedi values are extremely important to us. And so we again, we'll provide some coaching around those pieces. Like, what does it mean to be justice oriented? What does it mean in your mentoring relationship to share equity, and to embrace diversity, and to be inclusive? And we want to make sure that we're facilitating those types of conversations even at the onset of becoming a mentor.
That's a cool term, Jedi values. Who coined that? Where'd that come from? I haven't heard it before, but
that's from our national office.
Yeah. Well, kudos to them. That's a great way to characterize and summarize mission and values for the organization, because it rings. That's really cool. I'm Al McFarlane. This is the Conversation with Al McFarlane. I'm talking with Princess Awa-Ada Kisob, say the right name, say it the right way, and also Mario Bradshaw. And they're officers, managers at Big Brother, Big Sister of Minnesota. I don't know why I want to say Blue Cross Blue Shield. So another great organization, obviously.
Yes.
But BBS, Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Twin Cities. Princess Vice President of Programs, and Brother Mario is doing the community outreach, community engagement for the organization. Let me ask you to sort of both tell your personal stories. What does mentoring mean to you personally, Princess? Are there stories you want to share that sort of reflect, the impact that mentoring has on your life, and how you've had impact on other lives as a mentor, or even managing the process?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, mentoring and mentorship is kind of a cornerstone of who I am. I'm actually a former little of this very program. So I literally experienced the benefits of what it means to be a little and to have a big, and the value that adds to your life. I also believe that mentors in various stages of your life are critical to your development. So whether that's a coach, whether that's a teacher, whether that is an advisor in college or wherever, a colleague, a supervisor, a boss, I think mentors can take many shapes or forms. And I think I like to encourage people to think about, where are all those places that you have informally mentored somebody, because a lot of folks assume that they don't have that skill, but I think it all shows up in us in some way, shape, or form, one way or another. So for me, mentorship is really everything to me. And I've also had the pleasure and the honor of being able to mentor a young person as well. And I think I learned so much about myself in that process, and understanding even simple things like patience, or being open to sharing power, and creating space for dialogue and talking about things that, maybe I had no idea about, being willing to learn from a young person. I think that's the other piece. I think that I feel like through mentorship, I was given a platform to feel like I have something of value to bring into this space. And I think even, becoming a mentor later on in life, I realized this young person is opening up my eyes in ways that I could have never imagined before. So I just think that the learning goes both ways, and that like young people always have value to add into our community. So that's one way I think that mentorship has really impacted my life. And I think on the flip side of like supporting mentoring relationships, I think, there's something really powerful about being the fly on the wall that gets to kind of hear every person who's involved in this relationship speak to just the growth that they're experiencing. So I know that we have folks on our team who are in constant contact with parents and caregivers. And you can even see from the very beginning of their support calls to even 6 months later to a year later and onward, how they'll talk about how their child has become more expressive, how their child has just blossomed in various different aspects of their life due to the power of mentorship. And so I really do believe in it. And I think that it's incredible. And I think for me, having grown up in a single parent household, it was just really great to have another outlet, another individual who could show me different experiences or different ways and walks of life, or allow me to explore new things, or help me with my homework, or help me with my reading, whatever that might be, because different folks have different ways that they can show you the very same thing, with the same outcome, but a different route. And I think that's what's really important too, when I think about what young people deserve, is to see that there's more than one way to do one thing. There's more than one way to do anything,
Mario, what about you? What has mentoring meant to you? What does it mean to you personally? Are there stories that sort of show how either you've been impacted, or how your work is impacting other children or families?
Yeah. So, as I touched on a little bit earlier, raised in a single parent household. So I had my mom and my sister there, and they were great support and positive role models. I still ask them advice to this day, still close to this day. They're my biggest champions. They're the people I look to for guidance and stuff. So they really raised me, I would say, the right way. So like I had them growing up, which was beautiful, but also being a Black man in a white society, I didn't have a lot of like people who looked like me, who were my role models or people that gave me guidance and stuff. I had to rely on other people to help me with that process. So whether it was, as Prince has mentioned, young people can impact you. So I had friends, my peers, they were positive role models for me, doing sports or collecting cards, whatever it may be, kept me out of trouble. And, depending on like the groups I was hanging out with, their parents accepted me for exactly who I was. I knew I felt different, but they never treated me like I was different. They treated me like I was their child. So I ate dinners with them. I got disciplined like I was their child, so like I felt so normal and so safe in my circles. And it was a testament to like the people that came into my life and their parents, and then teachers and stuff. Like I had a lot of teachers growing up that really believed in me and that let me know that I was good enough as I was. I didn't have to pretend to be anything. I didn't have to present as somebody who I'm not, that I can be authentic as myself in those spaces. So mentorship, that I knew I wanted to pay that forward, as I mentioned earlier. And I try to do so in my work. I also still coach. I coach adaptive floor hockey and adaptive soccer for youth who have cognitive impairments. So I'm still in that realm, and they teach me things every day. It's a blast to come in and to learn from them and to see their growth and see their development. It's super special to see. And I wouldn't change my experience for the world. Like I feel like that mentors can just be somebody who's positive, somebody who's going to be there and be consistent. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just show up as you are, show up as yourself, and try to grow and give some guidance. And that's what I've experienced through mentorship in my lifetime. And that's what I try to bring forward through through my duties as being a mentor.
I'm Al McFarlane. This is the Conversation with Al McFarlane. I'm talking to my guest, Mario Bradshaw, who is the Senior Community Engagement Coordinator with Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Twin Cities. His colleague, Princess Awa-Ada Kisob, who is the Vice President of Programs at Big Brothers and Big Sisters. We're talking about mentoring. If you want to be in the conversation, reach out to us at Insight News. Either you could send a note to Cooper, COOPER at insightnews.com, and we can get your note posted. Or if you're listening to the live stream on YouTube or any other of the platforms, send us a note. Let us know. We're monitoring the YouTube comment section right now, but we can respond to you later. We'd love to have your voice. And now, shout out to our friend Cameron, who says, "Greetings, Brother Al McFarlane and distinguished guests." Greetings right back at you, dear sister Cameron. So let me switch this. Your team leader is Pat Sukum, right?
Yes.
And so I heard Pat Sukum make a presentation a while back, and it stayed with me. And let me see. I'm putting myself to the test and talking to you. You can tell if I was a good listener or not. He talked about being a mentor and being in a young person's life, but over the period of the relationship, it wasn't like he was in that person's life. It was more like that person was in his life. And here's what I'm not clear, but my memory is that he told me that when he, over years, he and his personal life and relationship was about to go into a wedding. I think he said his mentee was part of the wedding. Am I remembering that correctly?
You remember that correctly.
And so I said, that's cool. That's really cool that you have such a deep attachment to somebody. It's like family, and then when something major, hopefully good, probably good or bad happens, they have that connection with you that is part of your celebration. If it's an illness, probably part of your healing. If it's a disappointment, probably part of your resilience and bouncing back from it. But that's the value of connecting. And it was just clear in the story he told. And you all are telling variations of the same story. And I say this to say that when you tell a story, people remember. And I just remember it now that Pat talked about being a mentor and how deeply he was involved. And I was so impressed with it. And you all are saying the same thing. So you said you got 500 people, 500 young people on the wait list. How does that wait list grow? And is that the universe of people who need mentoring? How big is the challenge? And therefore, how great of an opportunity is there for community to respond, to rally, to know that community can bring the solution that young people seek? What do you think, Princess?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that, 500, I'm sure there's more. I mean, if it were up to me, I think everyone deserves a mentor. Everyone could benefit from any sort of a role model or some support or a friend, honestly. I mean, if we get down to the heart of it, it's a friend, right? We could all use a friend that can support us through challenging situations. But I think our 500 waitlist folks and folks that are waiting right now come to us through word of mouth. That's one of the ways that people hear about our program because their parent or the parent or caregiver themselves was a former little in the program and they had such a phenomenal experience that they want to allow their children to embark on that same or similar journey. We also find out that we get referrals from teachers, from schools, from social workers, from therapists who might recommend that a young person can really benefit from a mentor in their life. Because we know that mentorship really does impact the way a young person sees themselves, but also sees the world full of possibility. And so there are a lot of avenues that people get to us, but a majority of it is through word of mouth.
Awesome. Mike. There's a note from Pat. Pat, how you doing, my friend? Thank you for your note. He says, everyone deserves a mentor, and I so agree. And Pat, thank you for your leadership, your service to the community, and for developing this team of consummate professionals. I'm so impressed with Brother Malcolm and Sister Princess. This is a wonderful conversation. And Pat says, thanks for shining a light on big brothers and big sisters of Twin Cities and the need for support from the community. So that's what we're talking about. Let's support big brothers and big sisters. Let's support the work. Let's support the mission. Let's support the children of our community and the families. And ultimately, we do that. We support ourselves. We find out how we become and move towards being our best selves in community. I was curious when you mentioned that you went to school in the Dakotas, Mario. And if you don't mind, I'm going to take a turn to the personal and have you talk about, number one, you started off, you said, in Minneapolis, but your family moved to suburban South Minneapolis, and then you went to college out in the Dakotas. Tell me about growing up. What's your family story?
So yeah, family story. Single family or single parent household. My mom and my dad split when I was about 5 or so. My dad wasn't around, so I had to seek guidance elsewhere, and that's why mentorship was so impactful to me. It was the people around me, the community I was in, the friends I developed, the teachers I encountered. Those are the people who brought me up and who gave me perspective. And then being a Black man in a mostly white society, I had these experiences that I learned a lot from different people. And that's why I talk about like going to school in North Dakota was an interesting experience, but something I wouldn't trade for the world. I wasn't an athlete up there. I was just going to school. I was one of few who was a minority who wasn't in the athletic realm in any sort of way. But I met people that like graduated from classes of 5, something I couldn't fathom being from the Twin Cities area. Mm-hmm. So like different cultures and different experiences, different life lessons. Some not the best, of course. You're not going to always encounter the best things, but you also get to shed light on a lot of people and give them perspective and kind of broaden their views of what they thought people were like, or what they thought you would be presented as. So to kind of open up people's perspectives and to educate people. I wasn't offended if anybody had any questions or anybody had any sort of ask of me to be more knowledgeable or be more prepared in the future for further encounters with minorities or Black males or people from single parent households. Mm-hmm. So I embraced that and really took to that. And I thought it was mutually beneficial because I got to learn something about them as well.
Mm-hmm. What's your lineage, your family lineage? Do you do a family tree? Who's your mom's people? Who's your dad's people? What's your genealogical story to the degree that you know it?
So to the degree that I know it, my family, I'm the only one born and raised in Minnesota. All my other family is from Saginaw, Michigan. I wasn't close to a lot of my dad's side of the family after my mom and him split, but I stayed close with my grandma. She was biracial, so I have like that lineage on that side. And then my mom's mom, my grandma, she was
so the biracial side of your mom. You familiar with the white side or the Black side of her family?
So both.
Okay.
Again, I wasn't super close with them, and they were in Saginaw too, so that was a trip. But like every time I would go to Michigan to visit, I would make sure to stop by my grandma's side and my dad's side to touch base, and I kept in touch with her until she passed about a decade ago. Mm-hmm. And then my mom's mom, I was close with, but she passed unfortunately when I was like 7 years old. Wow. So I lost my grandparents pretty early. So that part of me was something I didn't get to experience, and something I was kind of jealous about, like my friends growing up, their grandparents were heavily involved and they got to experience that and stuff. And I kind of felt like, hey, I didn't grow up with a dad. I didn't have grandparents. So I felt like I missed some pieces there. But through the relationships I built and through the mentorship that came my way from various situations, I felt like that I got those valuable pieces from elsewhere.
Princess, your story. What's your family story? What's your lineage?
Yeah.
I love your name, Princess. I got my screen small here. I'm reading it, so I read it properly. Princess Awa-Ada Kisob.
Yeah, beautiful name.
Thank you all so much. So my family and I am from Cameroon. I was born here in Minneapolis, Minnesota, but my lineage is I'm Cameroonian. So I am the child of two immigrants, two individuals who came to this country seeking a different life, different opportunities than what they would have had otherwise. And so my name, Awa means princess, and Ada means first daughter. And I feel like sometimes, growing up, part of my mom's, I think, desire to link me with a mentor was because there were things about this world, about this country, about this space that she didn't necessarily have all the answers to or didn't necessarily know. And I think when I, shared earlier about how young people have the power of teaching, young people have the power of being educators, that was really prevalent in my household, because there were things that as I was learning, I'm teaching that to my mom and vice versa. We're growing together in this space. And so, yeah, my family, I have a very large extended family here in Minnesota and in the United States. Although I am an only child, so I was just raised with just my mother and I, but I grew up with a lot of cousins, a lot of aunts, a lot of uncles.
Here or home in Africa?
Here in the Twin Cities. Yeah,
Okay.
Here in the Twin Cities, lots of folks.
Is there a fairly large Cameroonian community here?
Yes, there is. Yeah. So yeah, I grew up really being able to be steeped in what that culture really looks like, what that means. And so I was able to learn a lot of those traditions along the way. I'm probably missing a lot of things that I could share about my family lineage, but I feel honored to have that connection and to that tie. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to share that. I appreciate, how far science and technology has come, where, my brothers and sisters here can say, I've traced my lineage back to Cameroon or other, West African or Central African countries. And it's an opportunity for us to continue to grow and learn from one another. I think that I have had the blessing of being connected to a lot of friends who really, ingratiated me with a lot of what American culture means. What does that look like, because I had my culture in my household, but I had my culture at school. And I think all of those pieces are in community, and all of those pieces made me who I am today.
Tell me about your visits home to Cameroon.
Yeah. Well, my first one, I was a little too young, so I can't speak to that. But I think one of my most memorable visits to Cameroon was when I was about maybe 7 or 8 years old. It was shortly after the passing of my grandfather. And so it was a really big deal. So almost all my family, we went back home and we stayed for a while. And I even enrolled in school there. And I think for me, as Mario has stated in his, experiences, Minnesota is, it's predominantly white. There is not a lot of pockets or areas where you can be connected with people of color that look like you. And so I think going to Cameroon was incredible for me because, again, at 7 or 8 years old, this was my first time where every establishment that I went into were people who looked like me doing every single job underneath the sun, not just certain jobs, but every job, every career. Nothing was too big or too little for us. And I think that was one of the catalysts that had me really thinking like, wow, there's a lot more to what I'm capable of just by seeing this, And I know a lot of folks talk about, countries in Africa maybe being, as developing nations, there's a lot of lack of opportunity, but I think that there's so much beauty there. There's so much you can learn about yourself. There's so much resilience in the people. And I think there's a lot that can be gained in understanding really the true meaning of life. I think Western society, we're always moving. And I think, being in Cameroon and even other areas and other parts of the country that I've traveled, or parts of the world that I've traveled to, I've really learned that sometimes it's important to slow down. And I think when I think about the values that we've just recently instilled at Big Brothers Big Sisters, relationships is our number one value, because connection is so critical and so important. And I think in other parts of the world, we see that relationships are so extremely valued, and that connectivity really, I think, boosts people's quality of life and their well-being, knowing that they're not alone in this world, they're not alone in this space. So that was my little tangent, and I had to bring us back naturally.
Good one. Good doing that. That's great. To my producer, Cooper, I just sent you a file, and if you get it, I want you to pull it up. It'll just be interesting. Cooper, let me know if you received the file. And it's a file that is a story you wrote. I wrote it, my wife and I wrote it, and the story was entitled Kings and Elders Connect in a Royal Visit to Community. And it's a story about the visit of His Royal Majesty King Abumbi II, who was the Fan of Bafut. And I mentioned before the program that I had this wonderful opportunity to visit with him. And you said he might be a cousin of yours, right? Cooper, if you got that, pull it up so we can look at it. And I want to talk about that for a second, because it was really a wonderful program. He says he's waiting on the email. In fact, I could share it from my, I'd rather have you do it though, but I could also share it from mine. He's got it coming up now. So I'll have you guys look at this, and I'll send you a copy of this after we're done, Princess. Let me know when you've got it up. Is it up, Neil? Yeah. There we go. Is that your relative? Or you're not sure?
I'm not sure. I'm going to have to check some sources on that.
Okay, but it's for those who are listening on radio, it's a picture of the King, His Royal Majesty, King Abumbi II. He's the Fan of Bafut, King of Bafut is what I interpret that to mean. And Cooper, if you scroll down, it's a wonderful little compendium. There's a picture of him, our king, our local king and leader, Spike Moss, and the Fan. And scroll down some more. I'll describe the pictures for those who are listening on the radio, who are watching with their ears. There's a nice photograph of some of the elders of the community. The Fan is there, flanked by Sister Liz Moore. She's the next one has departed. Sister Liz Samuels, Mother Liz Samuels. And then next to her, a recent guest on the program, Ni-Ora Hoax, who was an installed chief in Ghana. And Kelly, I can't remember Kelly's last name, it was one of Spike Moss's collaborators at the Way. And the next photograph down includes the Fan visiting with some of the elders in the community, including, Kelly Hardiman was her name. I'm looking at the cut line now. And on the second photograph, a picture of Pastor Ian Bethel. Ian Bethel's a regular on this program, talking about the work of the police community, unity community task force, trying to keep us at the table in the pursuit of justice in police work in the community. And along with him is the former, now deceased, rest in peace, Randolph Statton, who was a state legislator and an entrepreneur. And then the Fan is in the middle. Next to him is Dr. Peter Hayden. And next to Turning Point, regular guest on the program. And next to him, Dr. Clarence Hightower, who used to run the Urban League, who now runs the Hennepin Action program. And great guests. More pictures. I'll make this available online at Insight, but it's a good story. And what's rich about this, Princess, is it shows us being connected, and that we have to grow out of, and Mario, you kind of described this, grow out of being artificially confined to the margin of existence, having our minds and our aspirations both crowded and clouded into a sea of nothingness, and us being told that that's the way the world is. The world is not that way. Right. And we have to, by our action and by the responsible use of technology and communication, but also by storytelling, keep the imagination of the world alive and vibrant and accessible, so that change can happen everywhere, all the time, for everyone. But we have to be committed to that. And I think that really fits right into bringing this back, Princess, to the mission of the big brothers and big sisters, keeping worlds open, alive, and accessible. What do you think?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's all about connecting around stories and sharing our experiences, making sure that everyone feels seen, heard, valued, and understood. All of these pieces are so incredibly important. And it speaks to just why it's important to connect and why it's important to share your histories and connect with people whose histories might be slightly different or different than yours. But there's always value in that, because through that, you end up actually realizing how connected and how much you actually have in common, rather than what you have, rather than your differences. And I think that's one of the things that we wow people with every day, is that, we are diving deep so that we can find those threads of commonality and bring people together.
Well, we got about 3 minutes left. I want to make sure that we use this time to offer the invitation to invite people to step up and to, be counted as a part of the solution. Mary, I'll start with you. How do you move somebody off of just a position of, I just don't know, not that I don't like it or not aware, just haven't thought about it? How do we get them from there into the stream of action?
Yeah, that's the magic question right there. That's what we're trying to achieve. Just please check us out. Head to bigstwincities.org/volunteer. Look at our page, look at what we're about, look what we represent. We are in the middle of a campaign right now. We're the big recruit, trying to bring in volunteers to be positive role models for the youth in the Twin Cities. It's a great way to give back, great way to be part of community, great way to experience new things with youth and within the community. Great way to really tap in and to be present in the spaces that we work and we live. So trying to get to that 240 mark, as you see on the screen, in 60 days. We have a couple weeks left. By the end of the month, we're still about 100 volunteers away. So we're really, really hitting the ground, tapping into our communities, tapping into the people around us. We really need to knock some of the numbers down on that 500 plus youth waiting. A lot of great kids just wanting a positive role model, just wanting somebody to connect with that's not parent, guardian, or sibling, looking for a little bit of guidance, looking for a little bit of fun. Doesn't take much on your end at all, just a couple hours a month to connect with somebody and really impact their life for the better.
Princess, got about a minute left. Final thoughts?
Well, yeah, I just encourage everyone, if you're curious and you don't know, just stop by. We're right. I encourage you and I invite you to come into our office, come into our space, talk to staff. We have lots of opportunities to engage with folks who are already bigs. If you just want to pick their brain about what does it actually feel like, or was it, because everyone's nervous the first time for the most part. So sometimes it's just kind of just making sure that your feelings are okay and that they're normal and they're valid, because the reality is it is an investment. It is nerve wracking, but it's totally worth it. And I can say it, Mario and I can say it all we want, but I think it's even best when it's heard from the source. And so I'd love to invite folks to come to our big socials. So these are curated events specifically where current bigs, take some time out of their schedule to sit down and have panel discussions or just informal discussions with prospective bigs, people who are thinking about getting their toes wet and, dabbling in a little bit of mentoring, and they can hear right from the source a little bit about what that looks like. So yeah, I certainly encourage folks to check out our big socials. I know we'll be having a big brunch coming on. Maybe Mario, you can remind me of what date that is. But if you like some food, we always have food. We always have a good time. And I would be so thrilled to meet some new folks.
Well, listen, guys, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your story, your voice, for sharing your experiences. Thank you for what you do, and thank you for the organization that you support and that you work for, the work that you do with big brothers and big sisters of Twin Cities. One last question. What's the balance? Do you need more big brothers, more big sisters, more of both? How does it show up?
Mm-hmm. Well, we definitely need more big brothers.
Okay.
And we especially want more big brothers of color.
The women are showing up, the men are not.
The women are showing
Yeah.
up.
Which is okay.
So brothers, it's on you.
Mario, okay.
Step up. We got to step up.
We got some work to do.
That's
Thanks,
right.
guys.
Yeah.
We'll see you later. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Mr.
Thank
McFarlane.
you.
Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.